Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whenever you are watching this. Welcome back. If this is your first time meeting me, I am a teacher. I'm a recent college graduate. I live in New York City, and my channel is really dedicated to figuring out that kind of post-grad life, whatever that looks like for you, whether it's grad school, whether it's a new job, whether it's nothing of the above, and you're just trying to figure it out too. We're all in this thing together. It has been 3-ish months since you last saw this beautiful face, if you are an OG subscriber. And if you're a teacher, if you're in education, you know that like the end of the year, that last like quarter can be super stressful, and that's definitely what happened with me. And so I was really hung up with finishing out first year of grad school, finishing out like being a teacher, so getting grades put in, really like making those like last couple of connections with my students, finishing out lesson plans and all of that good stuff. A couple days ago, if you follow me on Twitter, also if you're not already following me on Twitter, what are you doing? My link is in the description box below. Top, I love it. I'm on there like probably too much now. Or on the conversation of that, if you are subscribed, if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and just click the subscribe button. If you are subscribed, and you don't already have this done, go ahead and click that little bell right next to the subscribe button so you know when post notifications come on, so YouTube can stop playing around with when people see these videos, because wow sis. Just finished off my first year teaching. It was a lot of things. I have so many feelings about like being a teacher, being at my school, all these different things. So I tweeted out that I wanted to make a video really strictly very explicitly talking about my first year of teaching, and I want to do that in like a Q&A format. So I tweeted out if you had any questions for me to please ask. I am super thankful that people submitted questions. I really wanted to shoot a mukbang, really wanted to shoot a Q&A, and I was like, why not do the two? It is about 9 o'clock on a Saturday night. I went out last night, so today is like my me time. My food is on the way. I made an Uber Eats order from this place that's called Fatty Daddy Taco. It's in Brooklyn. It's a local place. I love it. It's like adjacent to Chipotle or like a Dos Toros or something like that. My courier is talking to me right now. So the food should be here in about 5 minutes. So once it gets here, we can start eating. I can start going through some of the Twitter questions. And yeah, let's just have fun, guys. I'll see you in just a minute. So we have our food right here. I don't know if you can see it. It is a burrito bowl with portobello mushrooms because I'm vegetarian, salsa, lettuce, black beans, brown rice, and a little bit of sour cream. If you're like me, like I can't eat a burrito bowl without chips. So we have chips and salsa. And then because it's summertime to drink, we just have good old H2O. So, alright, so this was the tweet that I put out, basically asking if you have any questions about my first year of teaching, things like that. Just go ahead and ask. So I'm going to go through the questions, we're going to get into this food, and just have a grand old time. So the first question comes from Achievement for All, Daryl S. Diggs Jr. EDD. Congrats on getting your doctorate, man, that's amazing. He asks, do you feel you have a responsibility or added pressure because you are a black male educator? Really good question. I think that, so to give you a little bit of context, I teach in Brooklyn. I teach middle school in Brooklyn, and 99% of my kids are black. And I think that, so short answer is yes. I feel like there's an added pressure just because as a black person in the United States, it's real. It's really real for us out here. And I think on top of being a teacher, there's already pressure to make sure like your kids are knowledgeable, that they have the things that they need to know. But also I think as a teacher of color, as a black male teacher, there's this added pressure to make sure that you are planting those seeds and that you're doing the right thing, both like academically and personally, because like literally give it 5 minutes and you see yourself in your kids and you want like the very best for them, but also you understand that the world, by no virtue of like them doing anything aside from just being like a black person or a person of color, the world already sees them in a negative light. And so yeah, I think there's an added pressure or like an added responsibility that I feel sure that I'm doing what I need to do for my kids. Oh, that's really good. And it's like, is it fair? No. But I think being a black male educator, being a black person in the classroom teaching black kids, it's not really something that you can ignore. But yeah, so short answer, yes, I feel an added responsibility. But also it's my first year teaching. I've never done this, so still like working through all that. The next question comes from at ESL Adventures. What was your greatest win this year? So my greatest win, wow, that's, I feel like, so this is just me. I'm like super critical of myself, and so I feel like tracking my wins. I'm really good at tracking like things I didn't do well. I think like my greatest win is just seeing the kids that I saw like really struggle in the beginning of the year tell me that they really like history. I teach 5th grade history. I teach middle school history. I think my biggest win is always just like seeing those kids that were really struggling in the beginning of the year, seeing their growth, seeing them like super proud of their growth, moving on to the next grade. And I think of like one student in particular who like was really, really struggling. At least like our curriculum is really writing heavy, and so she was really, really struggling on like getting like the format right and stuff like that. That she said history was her favorite subject, and that she was really thankful for like all the extra help that she received. And just like moments like that where students can be reflective and also like own their own growth, that's a huge win every single time. This was really good. The next question comes from at CAMUKY, Camukai? How do you pronounce that? What will you be teaching next year? Same grade / content or something new? What are you most looking forward to in the classroom for year 2? So to give a little bit about my background, I went to college for English. I went to college for English with a concentration in African American literature and a minor in philosophy. And so this past year I was lead teaching 5th grade history and then co-teaching for 6th grade history. Both were world, and they're kind of just like a part 1 and part 2. While I really appreciate history and social studies, it's not my favorite. So next year I will not be teaching history. I'll be teaching ELA or English Language Arts literature in some capacity for either 4th or 5th grade. What will I be teaching? My content's going to change. Ideally, my grade level is going to stay hopefully the same. I'm cool with 4th grade is always the grade I would go lowest to, and then in terms of the grade I would go highest to, probably 8th. I don't think I could do high school. To answer the second part of the question, what are you most looking forward to in the classroom for year 2? I think that year 1 it's a lot of like trial and error. So and like really like years 1 through 3 or 4, like a lot of trial and error. For me, I think that I'm looking forward to having been in the classroom for a year, like already coming in knowing like what my strengths are. I'm looking forward to knowing how to build routines earlier on in the year. I'm also looking forward to getting back to like ELA literature writing, the thing that like I'm really, really passionate about. Because I think this year I love history. I think it's super important to learn. I think it's really needed, especially in like the K-12 space. I think what I'm looking forward to is knowing what some of my strengths are, and then getting back to like the content that I'm like super, super passionate about teaching, because I think it'll be really, really effective for kids. I've barely made a dent in this bowl. Next question comes from @_Kendrick D, and he asks, another first year here. Congratulations, finishing your first year. Not many can do it. A lot of people don't, but like we here, bro. How long did it take you to feel like you knew what you were doing? Also, did building routines and procedures help? How long did it take me to feel like I knew what I was doing? A year. First year, I still like barely feel like I know what I'm doing. So how long? Like an entire year. There are definitely moments where I'm like, okay, things are working. Things are like going really well. But really, like the amount of time that you feel like you know what you're doing can like change by literally by the hour. So how long did that take? Like literally a whole year. I think embrace the mistakes, embrace you being. I tell my kids this all the time. Like part of getting good at something is not being good at it in the beginning. So like literally took a whole year. Still like barely know what I'm doing. But the second part of the question is, did building routines and procedures help? Yes, that absolutely helps. My experience is typically with maybe what would be higher elementary or like lower middle school age kids. And for that age group, routines, consistency, procedures, that helps. Kids need to know what not like what exactly, but kids need to know like what to expect. That's why they have a schedule. That's why they're like our classes that are a certain amount of time long. That's why like we post a schedule for every day. Kids really like knowing, and it helps them like not be so anxious about what's coming if they know like what is expected of me, what are procedures. And I think I had to learn that the hard way, because I can tend to be like really lax and like really like caring and friendly. And while there's like definitely a place for that, I think that building those procedures, building those expectations, building those routines early on, down to like, this is how we pass in papers, this is how we transition from one classroom to the next, this is when homework is going home throughout the week, things like that. That definitely helps. Just it helps you de-stress, because not only do they know what's expected, you also know what's expected. And so you spend less time like behavior managing and like making sure kids are like doing the things, because you've already set those expectations, those procedures in place. So yeah, no, that definitely helps. So side note, I've been vegetarian for like I think it's like 9 or 10 years now, and about a year or two ago I started like doing fish. That reason was mainly because like I miss sushi. Toyed with the idea of being vegan. If you have any like tips on like transitioning from vegetarian to vegan, let me know. The next question comes from @Beth_Coriel. Where did you go for supplemental instructional materials in order to meet the needs of your students, especially if the school or district does not have textbooks or designated instructional materials? Really good question. Where did I go? I did not use teacher pay teachers at all. No shade to anyone that like uses it, but I think I enjoy making lessons from scratch. That being said, I work at a charter school where our curriculum is pre-designed, so you're given your lessons and like your classwork at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of every unit. I tend to use them as a guide and then like do what I wanted with the materials to make sure the objectives were being met. But where did I go for extra materials? To answer your question, ask other teachers in your building, ask other teachers in your like network or your district, someone who's taught the materials before. I even like asked Twitter a bunch of times if anyone had supplementary materials. I think being a teacher is like really easy to feel alone, but you have a community, and it's your job to like use the community that you have in order to get the resources that you need. There's a billion resources online depending on what content you teach. There's tons of videos on YouTube. As someone who taught history, I was really able to utilize like the news and current events, and so I enjoy like making classroom materials, so like making work packets or homework or stuff like that. But just like ask around, see if like the teachers that maybe have taught it before you, other schools that are in your network, what are they doing, and then like the internet. It's a huge JSTOR for articles is really great. Google Scholar is really great. Pretty much if you type in like what you teach, the topic, and then put like middle school or like your grade, something's gonna come up. No shade to teachers pay teachers, I just like didn't find it useful. Our next question comes from Claire @ClaireVerti. Congrats on finishing your first year. Thank you. Where do you see yourself in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? What are your biggest dreams for this profession? So thank you again. It's been a very It's been a learning year. One year I'll be like, next year I'll be teaching literature or English. What do I say myself in 5 years? 5 years, I'll have finished up my current master's degree and hopefully be working towards my doctorate. I go back and forth on like school leadership, stuff like that. Don't want to say I'm not trying to be anyone's principal because I don't want to close the door, but there are very few school leadership roles that seem interesting to me. I don't know. Bottom line, I really want to get good at being like a classroom teacher before I'm trying to lead like adults. 10 years, I will be 33. I will have finished my doctorate degree once I like get that. And I think like long term, what do I want to see? I'm really interested in education policy. I'm really interested in like building up schools from the ground. I'm really interested in private or a very specifically done charter school in terms of like leading or starting something like that. Having my doctorate, possibly looking at starting a school that seems pretty interesting. I don't know yet. And then what that would look like for kids of color, and also like really interested in doing work specifically with Black boys. It's kind of a roundabout way of answering that, but stay tuned. Question comes from Susan Betchel at Susan Betchel. What did you need to know that you did not learn in college? Basically everything. I was not an education major. I didn't really know what a standard was. I didn't know what like behavior management was. I had to learn that pretty much all on the job because I was hired later in the year. So what did I need to learn? Pretty much everything. Next question comes from Miss Flores Luisa. I actually finished my first year of teaching. Congrats to you. It's difficult. I would like to know what are some changes, keeps that you're going to do for. I would like to know what are some changes / keeps that you are going to do for your next first day / week of school. Keeps. Share yourself. I think kids want to know who their teacher is. So I like told them where I was from, all that stuff. Share who you are. Changes, I would start making routines and procedures really early, like if not first day, second day, just so that's like something that just becomes habit instead of reinforcement. Next question comes from Abby. I'm about to butcher your name, girl. Abby Gonzalez Hoffman. What was your favorite lesson that you did with your students? What was the most reflective lesson you did? What would you like to bring in for the next year? Okay, I'm going to answer that all pretty much one lesson. So I taught world history, and we spent a lot of time talking about how empires start, different pieces and parts, and then looking at different empires across the globe and across history. My favorite lesson was at the very end of the school year. My kids got in small groups or learning groups and pretty much guided their own construction of an empire, so they had to draft their own laws. They had to elect leaders within their group, and it was really cool to see them use all the skills and all the content that we've been doing the entire year, and really kind of guide themselves. And I was just kind of there as a support to make sure everyone was on task. But once they were super invested in it, it was so cool. I posted a snippet of it on my Instagram. It's in one of my highlights. You can go back and look at it. But that was my favorite lesson. Next question comes from Ivy2371. As a first year teacher, did you have a mentor teacher or an academic coach that you could turn to for questions or help? Yes, I think if there's anything that you need in your first year, it's having a mentor teacher, someone that you can vent to, ask questions, and that can affirm that you're not crazy. So yes, I had an assigned academic coach who was there for the mechanics. She would come and observe my classes throughout the week and things like that. But more organically, I had a guy who was on my content team. We both taught history. I taught 5th grade, he taught 8th grade. He was just an awesome person to kind of bounce ideas off of and really just get a lot of really great advice. He was a fellow black male educator, so we had that experience. But yeah, find someone that's either in your building or that's doing the work that you're doing, that's been doing it longer. He's going into his 6th year, I think. So it was really cool to have someone that I could look to ask questions and really just really vibe with. He became a big brother, and it was really beneficial to have someone like that in the building. The next question comes from DCPS Moss, who asks, what is something the right now you would tell the week before kids come, Mr. William? So what would I tell myself, with what I know right now, what would I tell myself the week before kids come? Just chill out. You don't have to be perfect. Kids don't want or need you to be perfect. Don't worry about the kids it's hard for you to reach now, because you will reach them. You don't have to be exactly like the other people, the other teachers in your building. Be as you can, but also still hold kids accountable early on, so that you're not having to backtrack and do a lot of restorative work later on. Do not take work home. Do not take work home. Do not take work home. Find time for self-care early, so that you don't have to make a big deal of it later. Have fun. Have fun. Every day should be like, try to have fun at least like once a day, whether that's in the classroom or outside the classroom. Last question, gonna wrap it up, coming from @S Ryan 3rd grade. How do you deal with the, oh, you're a teacher, didn't you want to fill in the blank, you don't make much money, do you comment? Also, what can we current teachers and society in general do to encourage more men to teach, particularly people of color? That's a really good question that I think a lot about. So I'm going to answer the second part first. I think that, first, what is a teacher? A teacher is a leader. They're a people person. They're creative. They're innovative. They're problem solvers. We are problem solvers. We care deeply. A lot of us are activists. A lot of us are deeply intelligent. So I think a way that society can encourage more people or more people of color to enter education is to, with those characteristics, who do you know that does that? So who do you know that's like really good at building a team? Who do you know that's a people person? Who do you know that is really smart and really intelligent and like really passionate about the work that they do? And it starts with just like planting those seeds early on. Like, hey, you're really good at this, you should consider teaching. Or, hey, you're really inspiring, you have a really nice way with kids, you should consider being a teacher. I think letting people know that it's a first option, not just like a second, third, or fourth, that's really big, because it wasn't until college that someone told me that I should consider teaching. That was like the first time when I was 20 years old that someone told me that I should consider teaching. So start planting those seeds in kids, in teens, and young adults. I think that's a really good way. Also, maybe kind of like backwards planning. If you know someone that's like really passionate about like race relations or community work, right now, black male teachers make up about 2% of the teaching workforce in the United States. And to me, that's something that needs to change. And so as someone that is like passionate about social justice, about activism, about doing work around race and policy, that was a really big way that got me into the classroom. So if you know someone that's like that, tell them, hey, you're passionate about this. Education, it's like a very like forward way of like getting involved in communities and work like that. You should consider teaching. So my camera died, so we're switching over to the phone. But it's okay, because that was our last question. But to finish it off, ignore them. They don't know what's going on in your classroom. I think it's when like you start to let people's opinions of what the important work that you're doing affect your opinion on the work that you're doing, that like you run into trouble. Society in general does not value classroom teachers in the way that they should as like an actual profession. And so if you know what you're doing is of worth, if you know what you're doing is valuable, and if you know the kids that you're teaching, that's all that matters. So the people saying that probably still get confused with there, and there, with two and two. And their Twitter timelines are probably riddled with spelling mistakes. So there's that. Thank you so much to everyone that asked a question. That is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for vibing with me, getting your snacks, eating along with me. If you enjoy videos like this, let me know down in the comments below. If you have any additional questions or even want to do a part 2 to this question from me about teaching, about my first year, about education, about like what's next, because there are a lot of things coming up, definitely leave a comment down in the description box below. If you ever want to connect with me, all my social media links will be in the description box as well. I love reading you guys' comments. I love answering DMs, all that great stuff. That is all the time we have for today. I'm going to finish this food, and hopefully I will see you guys soon. Have a great day.